DDG episode 217. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? We had the roulette of whose audio was going to be a problem to start. You're 2 weeks in a row. I no longer have.
I don't understand. Like, I was literally playing Destiny last night down here on Discord voice chat with people. Went upstairs last night, came down here today to record, and the little green box shows up around it. I know I'm talking, but I hear no audio. Like, and I don't change anything. Like, I don't hear YouTube, I don't hear Twitch, and I have to restart my computer. And it works. So
a combination of Windows and Discord, they hate each other so much. It's still annoying.
Better than Skype.
Oh, 100%. God, Skype was. I have not loaded Skype in forever, but it probably still looks the same, and it's probably still trash.
You remember we used to record without seeing each other?
Yeah. We'd be cutting over each other all the time. Now we just do it to annoy each other, but back then it was always.
At least I apologize now sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. But yeah, no. I'm doing good. It was WrestleMania weekend, so I watched a lot of wrestling. Didn't play a lot of video games, but again, watched a lot of wrestling. WrestleMania 2 nights, like 3 to 4 hours each night, and then a little bit of wrestling shows in between. But I'm sure you were watching a lot of college basketball and
a little bit,
some baseball in between there too. So probably sports heavy weekend for both of us if you count wrestling as a sport, which I sometimes don't.
Yeah. It draws almost as many viewers as the sports do. So
yep.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. If you listen to us on any of those services, thank you. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you are subscribed, please consider leaving a review with words. It helps. More people get to see the show. It shows up on different algorithms, however that crap works. Just reviewing and writing something significantly helps. If you're a visual person, you can watch us, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming or on youtube.com/digitaldaysgaming, where we live stream typically on Wednesday nights, 8:30-ish Eastern Time. You can subscribe on YouTube. That's free. You can follow on Twitch. That's free. You can... what's it called? You can sub on Twitch, and that costs like $5 if you want to do that directly, or you can link your Amazon Prime account with Twitch, and you get Prime Gaming, and you get a free Twitch subscription to the streamer of your choice. Please consider using that on us. It does not auto-renew, and you have to jump through like a flaming hula hoop backwards to figure out how to use it now. But it is there, so please, if you could take the 30 seconds it might take you to subscribe to us, that would be super helpful. We do not have to be live for you to subscribe. But it's always kind of cool because a little graphic shows up on the screen when you guys do that, so it's always fun. And other than that, everything else is linked in the show notes. Discord, Facebook, Twitter, social medias is all in the show notes. Please check it out, join the community, and we're going to jump into the news.
Yeah, I would say it's a light news week. There are some little things that came out. We talked about Ubisoft last week, and Ubisoft just baffles me because they had 2 game announcements, or a trailer reveal and then a game announcement today. So I will continue to not understand how they run their business. But the first thing we'll talk about is Prince of Persia has a new roguelite game that was announced. The game is called The Rogue Prince of Persia, which is, I hope that's a project name or something. It's not the best name, but it is coming from Evil Empire. It's the studio that is behind all that Dead Cells DLC. Mm-hmm. So the Dead Cells Castlevania and the Dead Cell something of the Queen. It is that studio, and apparently they pitched Ubisoft of like, hey, we have an idea for Prince of Persia, and Ubisoft is like, go for it. So now we have a new side-scrolling Prince of Persia that is a roguelite that is launching next month on Steam in early access. I would assume consoles will be coming later down the road. But Dave, we were talking about like, hey, what's Ubisoft have to announce at Ubisoft Forward in a month and a half? And this probably would have been in there. It probably still will be in there.
Yeah, it'll get some console release date at this Ubisoft Forward, I would assume.
Yeah.
So 2 things. One, I think it's super cool that this is essentially Evil Empire is what you would refer to as an auxiliary studio. And now as an auxiliary studio, they've broken free of... There's a bunch of story in that from their separation from the Dead Cells studio. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. Corporate jargon. But now they're kind of doing their own thing, and they've made, if they're the ones that are truly responsible for those expansions or DLCs or whatever you want to call them for Dead Cells, that's what people said was the foundation of Dead Cells was great. The growth of Dead Cells was this stuff. So if they can, I don't even know at this point in time, get 70% of that or 50% of that in this game, I'm sure with it being an early access and them having the ability to tweak it with the support of Ubisoft, it has the potential to be something kind of cool. However, this art style does absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah, I usually don't mind art styles like this. This would usually kind of like, I think the thumbnail looks better for the YouTube video than the actual gameplay
It
looks.
took too long to get to gameplay also.
Yeah. There's something about it that didn't click with me. Once I see the game actually being played for long chunks of time, I might change my mind. But it definitely is a different look. The thing I'm more interested in from this is the fact that Ubisoft is willing to do something like this. And this is one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're willing to do this with Prince of Persia, with a Prince of Persia game that already released in January, available, and in theory, a Prince of Persia remake that's coming in the future.
That's what I was going to ask you.
I think it's good that they're so willing to take these risks on these other Prince of Persia games. You have to worry that they might flood the market at a certain point of Prince of Persia.
I think they want you to forget about the remake.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's say, hey, do you really want a remake, or do you want these like smaller experiences that could be?
I think when and if they ever get somebody like publicly like has to, have a fireside chat or whatever, and IGN or GameSpot or something gets to sit down with anybody from Ubisoft upper management and ask them about, this thing, they'll be like, well, we were working on it, but we decided to go a different direction, and then the other direction we went was the two side scrollers and something else that we're bringing out too. And I think that they're just kind of hoping that people forget that they announced a full remake, because maybe it just isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a route to go, especially if this is successful. They could be like, hey, you guys really like the side-scrolling one. Do you really want like a big Sands of Time remake? But this also could be a route that they could go with, like, hey, we're never going to release Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Which we saw.
Which we saw. But what if some smaller studios got to play with that franchise and do something? What if we made a Beyond Good and Evil 2 that actually just looks like a PS2 game like it was back in the day?
Yeah.
This opens them up for some things of like, hey, what if we do a Splinter Cell game? We bring Sam Fisher back and it's a Metroidvania sort of experience, something like that. If it's
I think that they're getting ahead of the curve. Honestly, you and I have been talking about this for a while. We're seeing a lot of conversation around this through the layoffs and through the corporate handlings of companies, and the root of it is that the companies are coming out and saying, hey, this shit is expensive and it takes a long time, and during that time it's expensive, and then it doesn't hit the market, it doesn't do well. Selling 1 million copies of any game is hard, and you're definitely spending over $1 million easily on these games. And I'm kind of okay with if we can figure out some unique things that these, I'll be curious of what the unique Prince of Persia roguelike is. And I'm all for it. You've been saying it for a long time. I am all for these 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 15 hour games that are anywhere from $50 to $70 that you can feel comfortable. Hey, I played this for 3 weeks and I'm done.
Yeah. This is the thing that, we were talking about PlayStation a couple weeks ago, where I want PlayStation to go this route, but they closed all the studios that would do this for them. This is a good way for these companies to keep franchises alive that have gone dormant. And you can easily heat up a franchise to where if you do want to do the big budget AAA experience, you can, and it's less risky because you put all the groundwork down, the foundation down of like bringing a franchise back to relevancy, to where then people would be excited for like the big AAA, big budget version of, an entry in a franchise. Like the idea of like, hey, let's make a new Prince of Persia game. There's a reason why they're going to do a remake, Like they're like, it's too risky to make a brand new Prince of Persia game.
That I'm having a hard time with, and maybe it's just my old ass memory right now, but none of these guys scream original Prince of Persia to me. Like that side-scrolling gray and black cave dweller where he was in like white, almost like I guess the only way I can describe it is like Aladdin style clothing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, is you have to modernize it to a certain point, and then
But this Prince of Persia that they're showing looks very different than the Prince of Persia that the other studio just made. Like, I don't really see very
Yeah.
much symmetry at all. Not that I'm expecting anything, but it's kind of one of these things where, like, if all of a sudden, let's just, speak crazy out of the butt really quick, if they decided to make a Metroidvania Infamous style thing and it didn't look like Cole, but they called him Cole.
I mean, but at a certain point, like at least with Prince of Persia, they could be like, hey, it's not a person, it's a title.
Right.
Like it they can do that. We already had an Infamous where it wasn't Cole.
Right. No, I know. Yeah.
So they could do that and just use the franchise, especially like they needed to modernize Prince of Persia one way or the other.
Yeah.
And they did. It is kind of fascinating to see drastically different art styles, and main protagonist is one thing but completely different art style.
And I feel like the possibility of the system that was in that Prince of Persia Sands of, or I can't even think of the side scroller. I can't even think
Just
of the
Prince
name
of
right
Persia.
now. Yeah.
Something.
If they would have done something Dead Cells like with that almost that same map or that same animation, I think that would have worked too. But I guess that this is what we've always talked about, though. Like, this company, Evil Empire, was probably building something, and they're sitting at the table going, who can we pitch this to, and what can we do to go to this company? Because Evil Empire doesn't have any IPs that they own. So this game was probably running with a certain art style, and then they went to multiple developers or multiple publishers. Ubisoft said, yep, and they at the conference table came to the conclusion of, let's Prince of Persia it. And this is what we get.
I mean, you would imagine that, like, because they've been working on like the Dead Cells stuff, that they had all their assets and art style kind of built up, and they probably did shop to multiple studios and like, hey, it's very easy for us to not like asset drop your IP into this, but it's just like, hey, this is what we could do. This is the structure we have.
This could have been a Master Chief roguelike, as an example. This
Spyro. This could have, this could have been anything.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft right now, as we were talking about last week, they kind of don't have a lot going on, so it's like an easy sell for Ubisoft of just like, oh, we're not gonna have to spend a bunch of money on an engine R&D sort of thing for you to like figure out the ground plan. It's like, no, you already have, the
pedigree.
blueprint, and the pedigree, and
this is
you might as well just go for it.
I hope it's fun.
I do too.
I don't like roguelites much. I haven't really, but to be fair, I haven't really given them a hard, like a true shake. I did Hades. I probably did a dozen or 16 runs on Hades and got distracted. I've tried Dead Cells and couldn't get into the combat a little bit, but I do like the side-scrolling Metroidvania style thing, so that this should work for me.
Mm-hmm. And you do like the Prince of Persia franchise, so this could work. And again, this is like, if this bombs or it's bad, it won't matter. Like, I know that sounds weird or messed up, but it's just like that. This is a very low stakes situation. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, that roguelite Prince of Persia game really killed the franchise. Right. It's like, no, like it's fine. If anything, it might just speed them doing a sequel to the Prince of Persia game we got earlier this year. And just like, actually, people just want more of that. The next news that we have is also from Ubisoft, and we have a new Star Wars Outlaw trailer. This also came with a release date of August 30th. The game is going to be available for pre-order. They're going to have a Gold Ultimate Edition, which confirmed the game will have 2 story-focused expansions. Another tidbit that people were like losing their shit over on the internet was on the box. The box art for the physical game. It will require an internet connection to download the game, which means, you're not playing a game by popping a disc in. Like, I don't know what you're going to get when you pop that disc in, but you're going to need to download some. You're going to
need to connect to Ubisoft Connect. That's
Ubisoft Connect, and also you're downloading day one patches, but this sounds like those day one patches will be very significant.
Or the game just won't work without a Ubisoft connection.
Yeah. People are losing their shit. I do like that they're at least putting it on the box art very visible, so people aren't going to... The rare instance you have a PS5 or Xbox Series X that isn't connected to the internet, you won't be surprised of like, hey, this game's just not loading. But Dave, I think we were talking about like, oh, this will probably get a big blowout at Ubisoft Forward. I almost feel like they're kind of getting it out of the way now of like, here's a story trailer, and then we'll get gameplay blowout.
Yeah, the date is intriguing too, of August 30th. I'm gonna say now this gets delayed until middle of September for some reason. Middle of September, early October. That's just my opinion.
You don't want it to go against Madden?
No, I don't care. It's just
No, I'm
they
saying
never
like
really lately. Ubisoft doesn't hit the first date it announces. They have a track record
no,
of that. So
or the second. So.
yeah, so I hope it does come out August 30th. I think it'll be really cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're like kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, though. They can't wait to give this release date in June because that's not enough time for pre-orders and for hype. Yeah, you get to play some more games, or you get to play some more gameplay, but it's also starting to kind of like these two stories are kind of piquing my interest of like, okay, like yeah, maybe the Prince of Persia thing you couldn't have held because May 14th, but like maybe they've got some cool stuff that they're getting ready to show us, and like we're supposed to get that Assassin's Creed Mirage, or is Mirage out already?
Mirage came out last year.
Yeah, but we're supposed to get another Assassin's Creed, like the hub thing, right? Like the
They've
main.
been very.
Yeah.
It's been very murky
But
and gray.
if this is coming out in August, like what's their October November game? Is it Assassin's Creed? Is it Far Cry? Like, there's no way that they're gonna. I don't feel like they're gonna announce a Far Cry in June and release it in November.
X Defiant and Heartland at the same time.
You know, like, so I'm kind of interested to see like what's gonna be their marquee like holiday title. You know, because it doesn't look like that South Park thing reviewed very well.
That wasn't them. That was THQ.
Oh, okay.
That's why the South Park thing looked kind of bad. It was not with. It was with Embracer Group, I believe.
Okay, that makes a little more sense now. That's my mistake. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm super interested. Like I said last week, we're due another Far Cry. But in terms of do another Far Cry, I think you announce it. You talk about who the villain is and who the voice actor is, actor or actress of the villain, and it comes out 2025.
That's why I almost feel like if Far Cry gets announced anything, it's going to be a remake, like you said last week.
Yeah.
Because that's something you could just release right away without having to hype it up.
Right, but that's not a marquee November game for them. So I'm really curious about what that's going to be.
That low key is a marquee for them though, because we talk about it every time when we look at like top best selling games of the year.
But like a Far Cry 3 remake is not a marquee like that. I don't think like that it'll
sell well.
It'll sell well, but it's not going to go over well with the board of like what they're releasing as their marquee holiday marketing title.
I mean, it'll go over with the board if they're like, this did not cost us a lot of money,
okay.
and it's going to be in the top 10 of sales.
Yeah.
We did not have to advertise and market this game whatsoever, and people.
Yeah, but I'm kind of used to like Ubisoft being on Monday Night Football, like or on Sunday afternoon. Like, what are they going to be talking about in middle of October? Like that, you're going to get the Call of Duty commercial, you're going to get the Ubisoft big game, and then you're gonna get the I don't even know. Like I can't even think of it. Like these,
nothing
mixed
from,
in with the Madden commercial.
It's gonna be the Indiana Jones push. No, this is. I imagine Ubisoft does have to have something big up their sleeve, especially Star Wars Outlaws. You can do a big gameplay reveal. They've already shown a little bit of gameplay, but like. Yeah. It's a single player game, so it's not like you can spend too much time showing stuff without spoiling.
They'll focus on traversal and combat. Like it'll be a gameplay of that, of like a vertical slice of the game, but 3 hours in for 8 minutes. But what are you gonna do with the other 50 minutes of your show?
And that's what I mean. Usually they would dedicate like almost like 20-30 minutes to like one marquee game, and they actually release things recently. Like with the Avatars out. Prince of Persia is out. This new Prince of Persia, people are going to already be playing it.
Yeah.
And then Outlaws, it's only a month and a half between.
Yeah.
Ubisoft
I mean, the first 15 minutes of their
date.
show is going to be Just Dance 2025 and Star Wars Outlaws. What are you going to do with the other 45 minutes?
Content for Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that they could end up doing is they finally pull the trigger on like, hey, we're going to do some major things with the Rainbow Six franchise.
Yeah, but I get emails on Saturdays about those things all the time at e-events. Like they're constantly doing seasonal update or seasonal content operator editions. Like they would have to like almost release a named expansion with Rainbow Six though. Like to
and that could be where they're going. With.
Rainbow 6.0, 6.2.0. I don't know.
Yeah, they could do something Rainbow Six, because I don't think there's any Splinter Cell stuff beyond Good and Evil 2. You know what? That would be the funny thing is if they finally were like, actually, Beyond Good and Evil 2 announced 10 years ago is actually
Yeah.
finally fucking finished coming out this holiday.
Hey, we're making Skull and Bones fun.
It could be interesting for them. No, I that's gonna be the bet. Like, do they spend more than 5 minutes on Skull and Bones?
Oh, they will.
And no one will care.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, the trailer looked good. If we want to talk about the trailer for a couple seconds, I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, but the trailer looked good. I don't know, it's an Ubisoft game, and it's seems high quality, and the Star Wars stuff seemed very Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean their games look amazing. They always look great. Avatar was a very beautiful looking game. I just didn't care about the character, and I hopefully they can make me care about this character. Like that's the that's the main thing. Like I am not a huge Star Wars person, but I enjoy the world, and I thought what EA did with Jedi Fallen Order was fantastic, of making a new character that I cared about and wanted to play, and it was Uncharted meets Star Wars, and I loved it. So if this is, I guess ultimately somehow, if they can, I know circling back to it, if they can figure out a way to have the fun over the little fun over the topness slightly of Far Cry in a Star Wars world, like this might work.
It definitely could, and it's massive. Correct? Is the developer on this one?
I believe so. Yeah. So that's like
and
the
they
Division.
are the Division people.
Yes. Let me double check. I mean, they are the Division people. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think this is massive, right? Right.
Yeah, because I think the guy that
checking.
I think the guy that was Julian Garrity, he did a lot of Ubisoft Massive Entertainment. Julian Garrity was like the director of Division 1 and Division 2, and he's directing this Massive Entertainment, discussing Star Wars threatening new crime syndicate, the dream opportunity of creating a bounty hunter, and how anyone who's ever felt trapped can identify with Kay.
So maybe, they get this out of the way, and then Massive can focus, a little bit more.
Massive made Avatar.
Massive apparently is literally massive because they made Avatar last year. They're gonna have Star Wars this year, and then
still working on the Division 2. They're still releasing some seasonal content.
Yeah, Division 2, Division 3 has already been announced technically, right? And then
they said
Heartland.
The words.
Yeah.
They're not working on Heartland. Red Storm, who did their Dark Zone stuff, who did their Dark Zone stuff in Division 1, Division 2, is supposedly working on Heartland.
Okay, so either way, super busy. Don't know what you do. I still don't know if Heartland is going to be real, but hey, maybe they'll just spend 40 minutes on XDefiant.
We learned how to not blow consoles up.
Hopefully. I mean, that'd be key. That'd be key. All right, we'll move on to the next story. EA is not working on Dead Space 2. So EA came out against some reports suggesting that Dead Space 2 remake was in the plans but had been canceled. They basically outright said that the reports were untrue, but they did not specify any specifics from the reportings. The report suggested Dead Space 2 was the original plan for Motive Games, but due to poor sales, the game was canceled. Jeff Grubb was the main one that EA was responding to. Basically, was said like, no, it was in the plans. It had a code name, and like pre-production was started on that game. But it was put on hold, and then eventually just straight up canceled after the sales kind of fell off for Dead Space 1. I was trying to look up sales estimates. I kept seeing anywhere from 2 to 4 million copies sold for the Dead Space 1 remake, which would put it in line for what the franchise originally did. Which obviously, if you're EA, like, you probably expect significantly more.
Yeah,
sales-wise.
It almost tells you, like, with that data like that, it's just that they didn't garner a new audience.
Yeah, they didn't garner a new audience, and that, they're in a really tough spot right now, EA, of like, we need franchises right now. So they try to go in their back catalog, find a franchise, and it just didn't turn into what EA wanted. These reports basically came on a tail end of EA announcing that Motive was being moved into the fold to work on Battlefield, despite the studio already working on the previously announced Iron Man game. And obviously they were potentially working on Dead Space 2. So Battlefield seems like more studios are being folded into whatever you want to call that for the new Battlefield. This comes around the same time they announced Battlefield 2042's latest season will be its last season. And there's that one studio from the Halo creator that was working on single player Battlefield that was closed, and that single player Battlefield sounds like that work was been transferred to another studio. So sounds like EA is playing like musical chairs with the Battlefield franchise, and
because they don't know what to do with it.
Yep, and ultimately what that led to is Motive no longer working on Dead Space 2 remake.
Right.
Dave, you already kind of answered this, but it can't be too surprising that this is happening. I almost didn't expect them to remake 2 because then they would have to remake 3, and then people would expect.
I mean, I'm not
Space.
I'm not a Dead Space guy, so like I don't care. But it just like to your point though, like this would have been the easy path for them. Like this, like with like cost effective wise, like okay, let's just do it, and like let's spend. I don't know, $1 million, $1.5 million to do it, sell 3 million, 4 million copies.
The thing is with Dead Space, I know you're just throwing out $1 million as a general term. The Dead Space 1 remake, they put a ton of effort and money into that, to where even if they had the foundation laid, like it would be a significant investment for EA too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ultimate like around numbers. But I guess I don't know. Like if they didn't make money off the first one, then they probably aren't going to make money off the second one, or make enough money. So. Kudos to them to not do, just to, I guess, to not take the, what I call like the path of least resistance. And hopefully they can do something cool. But at this point in time, like these companies either take major risks that flop or they take no risks at all that flop. And I don't really know where they consider flops. And I don't have the answer.
Yeah, that target is always moving. So it's always hard to tell exactly like, they had enough data to say like, hey, the Dead Space franchise when it first came out only sold this many copies. Like, I don't know where their research would have been like, we should be able to double that now. And it's just like, no, that's not how it works. Like people are going to be like, I never played those games to begin with. And you might have people that are like, they're changing too many things with the remake over the first game. So ultimately you're kind of just going to be fighting to hit the same numbers that weren't good enough back then.
Right.
Trying to like recreate something. Though the Dead Space 1 remake was, by all accounts, a phenomenal remake. The fans were very happy with it. It just ultimately just didn't create new players. Motive. I imagine as soon as the Iron Man game was announced, that killed Dead Space 2's chances completely. But having the franchise or having the studio now move to the Battlefield like bunker or whatever you want to call it, like is not a good sign for even the Iron Man game.
This feels like they're kind of following the same roadmap that Activision Blizzard followed.
It does.
And so I hate to say that. So like, it's like, what are we going to hear in like 18 months that Sony's trying to buy EA, or something like, or EA and Ubi merge. Like, I mean,
well, I think that's why EA kind of separated sports and their other stuff.
Just, we don't know what to do with you. Go make maps for Battlefield. Oh, we don't know what to do with you. Go do textures and skins for Battlefield.
Yeah. Because we can't we don't want to put more money into Madden because it already makes so much money with the effort we currently put in. So
yeah. And then what's going to make it even worse is if NCAA takes off at all. It's going to make this even worse because now you're going to talk about NCAA, Madden, and soccer all like as service style games, which is what they've turned into.
That's when like EA will look
money.
At DICE,
and
Motive and Criterion of like, here's the rule book. Fucking learn football.
Because they have a huge potential with NCAA, because there's a lot of people that I mean, it's essentially going to be I expect it to be a Madden clone, but at the same time, a Madden clone with that college skin on it, man. There's some people that they're fiending for it.
And you don't really play Madden, but you're gonna probably pick up college.
Oh yeah, just because the dynamic of it, the way the system works, and I guess I don't know. You could do the same thing, but like you don't really have to deal with like free agency and contracts and trades. You just have to, play and you get somebody for 2 or 3 years.
There is the portal now.
Yeah, so. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they deal with that, but it'll be super interesting. But it's just there's just I can't even give you a logical reason why I don't play Madden because I love NFL football, like watching it as a whole and fantasy and everything. But just the different environments that college involves and the crowds, there just seems to be a little bit more culture or texture around it that differently.
Mhm.
But it's been 10 years, so like I might pick it up and be like, yeah, this is Madden, and I don't like it.
You're
So,
gonna be just upset that you're gonna have to like manage NIL
yeah.
contracts and stuff like that. Of just like, shit, my favorite
I lost a
teams.
guy to transfer because Pringles offered him more money to go to Oklahoma than Frito was
Yeah,
offering him to stay at Michigan.
we have a shoe deal with Adidas, and
Yeah.
he signed a deal with Nike. Damn it! Like, I wonder if they can touch some of that dynamic stuff. In terms of like how, you know, as far as I know, like the idea of like students transferring wasn't a big thing until the last couple years, and now it seems
Yeah,
like if
post
you
pandemic, it's kind of broken the system some. So
yeah, just hearing about like after the NCAA like women's tournament
yeah.
finished, how many people entered the portal to like transfer
Oh
out or
yeah,
go to the draft.
Kentucky's basketball coach just left, and
Yeah,
I think 30% of the team is in the portal now already, and that's been 48 hours.
yeah. So I want to know if that dynamic will make it into
Yeah.
the football game. It's because that's a big thing now. At least with college football, like I don't believe you have one and done college football players too often.
Not one and done to the NFL, but one and done to a
Yeah,
different school.
yeah, one and done to a different school, but
Yeah.
like
You can't.
they at least have
cannot.
that.
Yeah, you cannot. Like your high school has to be 3 years graduated before you're eligible to declare for the draft.
Yeah,
So
so they don't have to deal with that dynamic, but like it would be crazy if they did, because then it's gonna break that whole game.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on to I guess this is kind of a nothing story. But I still put it in here. But Xbox remains committed to backwards compatibility. So, according to some leaked internal emails, Xbox has formed a new internal team dedicated to making sure that future hardware will be backwards compatible. This new team is being pitched as a team dedicated to preservation. This is internal emails from Sarah Bond, the head of Xbox. And it was basically just letting people know that they're still working on backwards compatibility, specifically like from now going forward, in terms of there's some new hardware coming from Xbox, some next gen hardware coming, and they want to make sure they have everything set up to where they can have backwards compatibility, not really be something you have to even think about when you're on the Xbox side.
Right.
Going forward, this is funny because it comes on the heels of like suddenly everyone remembering that the Xbox 360 marketplace is closing in July.
Michael's been telling you like every other week for like 6 months, but
Yeah, Xbox told us last year
yeah,
that it was
I'm saying
closing.
you've been saying,
Yeah.
hey guys,
No, yeah.
like
And again, when this thing fucking closes, PlayStation's gonna come out and be like, the Wii U's closed, the DS is closed,
yeah.
the 360's closed, we're done. But over the last couple of days, there's been a lot of articles being like, "Oh my god, the Xbox 360 store is closing," but it's just like they announced this last year. We knew this was coming. But that must be why, or been related to why this email went out, to be like, "Hey, we're still dedicated to backwards compatibility, and moving forward, now that they're going to have a dedicated team," which I believe PlayStation announced a while ago. They had a dedicated team for this stuff, but nothing ever really came of it from that.
Yeah, it was when they were kind of talking about the merging of PS Now and PS Plus tiers of like, hey,
Yeah.
we're working on getting more things to work.
And then really slowed down.
Yeah. So here's my take. Like, okay, like there's a lot of things to unpack in this thing, this little thing. Okay. First of all, backwards compatibility in 2024 is significantly easier than it was in 2012.
Yes.
Because you don't have a cell processor on the PS3 anymore. So your PS4, PS5 games on PS6 should be a cakewalk. They've learned to stream the PS3 games, and every Xbox, I believe, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I like Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series, whatever you want to call them, all have Blu-ray players in them, right?
No, 360 was DVD.
Okay, so post the 360 and the PS3 era, the hardware has been very similar, just more powerful, and so I feel like that this is easier for them to do versus like you go back to like GameCube was a significantly smaller disc than the Wii, like and then prior to that was cartridges to discs and all that other crap. So in terms of also the digital environment has also changed this where like I don't have a disc player on
Mhm.
my stuff. Um, Also, like this talk of new consoles, and I know we're gonna get to it in Stefan's question
Yeah,
at the end. Um, I don't want to hear it until you can make your games run 60 frames a second on these current
yeah.
consoles.
In my bullet points, I put part of this is due to the
Yeah,
hype of Xbox saying their next console will be the most powerful, blah 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 console of all time, and we'll be seeing it sooner rather than
yeah.
later.
And I know my common core of listeners are console players, and they're gonna roll their eyes when I say this, but like, this is part of the reason why I've slowly made this transition to PC because I don't have to think about that shit. If I want to, it hurts my eyes. For the record, like I'm telling you right now, it hurts my old ass eyes. I can run Destiny at 150 frames a second on this PC in front of me, but it hurts bad.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I get a headache and I get
I would
dizzy.
I would imagine this preservation team isn't necessarily there to be like, oh, let's make sure we code the next Xbox to be backwards compatible
Yeah,
because, like you said, the hardware is pretty similar now. It might be a team that's like, okay, you're also a team of lawyers to make sure licenses say
yeah.
we can use this shit forever going forward in perpetuity,
Don't let a trademark expire, bro.
basically, and just like work on relations to make sure companies
Yeah,
are okay with this because that was the one thing that kind of stopped backwards compatibility on the Series X and Xbox
yeah.
in general is they kind of ran out of
We
partnerships
lost our
and
Ninja
stuff.
Turtle license, so take it off the store.
Yeah, and just telling companies like, "Hey, we can make this backwards compatible and you don't have to put work into it." And some companies were like, "No, thank you,"
Right.
because we have plans for that franchise or we just aren't interested in maintaining that license. So, part of this could be them working on deals and stuff like that to make sure stuff doesn't fall through the cracks like happens every once in a while. And that's important for them to do, especially like it's in backwards compatibility is important to Xbox is because they have a track record not being able to produce new content. So it's very important that they hold on to that old content and make it playable. Uh,
Right.
it is funny that this goes out the same time the 360 marketplace stuff is going around and they're shutting that down. But that is a good example of like what can happen when you don't think forward enough. Because there's going to be a lot of 360 games that are just going to disappear forever.
Mhm.
Because like people that own it will still be able to buy it, but like if I tell Dave, hey Dave, you should go play like the Burger King game or some random shit like that, you're gonna be like, or not the Burger King game that's on disc, but like Dave, you should play the Sour Patch Kids game,
Mhm.
and you'd be like, oh cool, how do I do it? And be like, you have to already own a copy
Right.
digitally. Like there's hundreds of games that are gonna fall into that, especially when you have like the Xbox. Was it Xbox LA or I forget what it was, or like there was like the indie thing where you can self-publish games on the
Mhm.
Xbox Marketplace. So like those games are all going to disappear
ID
unless
at
they're like
Xbox or
already on
something.
PC. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like it's good that like Microsoft has this team in place to prevent future stuff disappearing. But ultimately, there it seems like this is them hyping up the fact that they're going to have a new console relatively soon. We'll talk about that with the question we have later. But there's a lot to dig in here on what this could mean. I also think this also is them being like, we have a backwards compatibility team again because we got to get a lot of the Activision Blizzard stuff ready to go.
Yeah.
Because
I saw
that
some
will
headline
probably
today
start.
about they're getting ready to announce some big Game Pass thing for that.
Yeah, which will probably wait till June or when they do their showcase. Which is going to be funny because there's a chance that Xbox Showcase this summer is going to be like, hey, half these games are 10, 15 years old and coming to Game Pass today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where they are at. In case anyone's wondering, like why we've been talking about Xbox a lot lately, it's because PlayStation is kind of just coasting right now. Like PlayStation doesn't really have too much to announce. Um, and PlayStation right now is number one, and when you're number one, you're not really trying to make headlines because you don't have to.
Right.
So I'm hoping PlayStation kind of gets into a higher gear coming into the summer.
But they don't really need to.
They
Like
don't
there's
really need to, but as a podcast
we
person
need
that
them
talks
to.
about
Yeah.
news,
Root for radio. Like root for
yeah,
podcasts. Yeah, I would love to talk about them, coming out of left field with something. And to be honest with you, like the company that they own that talks the most currently right now is Bungie.
hmm
So
yeah, and it's 50% good, 50% bad.
Yeah. So I know you and I have been talking about it. I don't know if you saw it at the beginning yesterday, the live stream that they did for their for Final Shape, going into the light update that they released yesterday. But Luke Smith came out and looked right and came out. And it's the first time I've seen Luke Smith on camera in like 2 or 3 years. I know you're not the biggest Luke Smith fan, but he said, we are not done with Destiny 2 and we are not done with Destiny. He's like, we will talk soon. And there are tons and tons of stuff now, all of a sudden, headlines of this code name Payback that's allegedly Destiny 3.
So they are done with Destiny 2.
Yeah, I mean, but I to be honest with you, I think that if they do anything based on what I saw, what they're trying to do is, I think they're going to drop Destiny 2 as a name, and I think they're just going to call it Destiny, and they're going to
which I think they should have done
right,
5 years ago.
And I think stuff is going to come in and out of the game in a, like I'm talking about, content's going to be added and content's going to be moved.
Fortnite.
Yeah, and and it's going to come in and out in like an ebb and flow. Can get into it just a little bit because it's part of my playing and watching, but if the rumors are led to be true, or believed to be true, I'm sorry, people were wondering why Final Shape got delayed, and it sounds like it was Bungie or Sony saying that's not enough. Whatever they were getting ready to release in February wasn't enough. They announced yesterday another subclass, so now we're up to 6 subclasses in the game, which is ridiculous. But this subclass is called Prismatic, and it is a mixture of all of the other subclasses. So currently in Destiny right now, you have Solar, Arc, Void, Stasis, Ice, Strand, which is this green slime goo, like grapple thing. And now they are showing instances of where you had a Solar Grenade, an Arc melee, and a Void like class ability. So they're mixing. They're not letting you just like have your way. At least from what I've seen early on, but they're definitely showing enough stuff to where I would be very curious if we see something in the next week or two about pre-sale numbers are increasing, because the sentiment that I saw online was very positive of Bungie. And Bungie just did what Bungie does. They are just a big ass hype train, and they got people hyped yesterday. I'm already in, so like whatever they show or don't show is cool. I'm like, oh, yeah, that looks really fun. That's interesting. That's cool. But I was already gonna play. But there's a couple other people that are like, huh? like wait a minute. Like, you get to do what now? And then they're like, oh, by the way, here's all this free stuff that you get today. All this stuff. So they're doing everything they can to increase their player count. And I don't know. I'm with you. This is similar to what we talked about with like just a couple minutes ago with Massive. How is Bungie going to currently work on Destiny 2? Allegedly be working on a third, some type of another game, another Destiny game, and Marathon. Like, it becomes a little problematic of like, are you trying to do too much when, you're not wrong, obviously, Michael, like to the point of where they haven't been able to hold the player base on one game. So.
Bungie just finds himself in a tough spot, and it's a thing that we always talk about Bungie, of they kind of, right? I know they can't shut up right now, because they have to hype up the thing, but it's like once this expansion is out, they just need to be quiet, start hyping up Marathon, and
it
be
just
quiet
needs to
about
be
Destiny.
Different people. Like, here's the thing though, like this is what I really hope. Like, okay, you 150 work on Destiny 2. You work on Destiny 2. You 150 are working on Marathon. You 150 are working out whatever. And I'm just using generic round numbers.
Yeah.
So the face of Bungie, or like Luke Smith, should not talk about Marathon. He's the Destiny director. Like, he should not be talking about Marathon. Whoever the head of social media for Bungie is, if he's going to be the face of Destiny on social media and on live streams, he should not talk about Marathon. They should make somebody else talk about Marathon as the face of Marathon. That was one of the things that Deej did very well, is that if you wanted to know about Destiny, his face was in front of you. It wasn't anybody else's. Like during big reveals, you'd see other people, but you would always see Deej at the beginning and at the end. And I think that they need to do that with Marathon. They need to have somebody that's the face of Marathon at the beginning and the end, and then these people are the face of Destiny 2, and those Destiny 3 people all have duct tape around their face.
I mean, you have to do that just because players will get in their feelings if they're like, "Why is this person not working?"
That's already
Even if
happening.
it's just a community management person. Yeah, no, but like when they are actively giving marathon updates is where it's going to then turn significantly. So yeah, I understand.
Their
Like that
favorite
would
sandbox
probably be the thing to
developer
do.
changed his bio from Destiny to Crucible team to Marathon director, and they're like, no. It's like,
Yeah, and like you don't have to necessarily do like Bungie North, Bungie South, or anything like that, but you definitely need to have like the faces, because in the end, the faces they tend to be the ones that get all the flack and praise anyways.
Similarly to PlayStation, how we said, please stop having Jack Ryan talk. Like, let Herman Hulse talk. Like, be a nicer face. Like, who's the one that really gets to talk and gets to say the stuff of like, oh, when you see, like back in the day when Sean Layden walked on stage, everybody shut up. Like, because Sean Layden's on stage, and but when and Adam Boyes, it was on that level a little bit, or Geo, when Geo would walk on stage, you're like, oh, we're gonna see something cool, like from a third party, like you knew what it was.
Be like Adam Boyes would be like third party stuff. Geo would be like, oh, we're gonna get some Vita stuff today.
Yeah,
like they split their personalities enough. Like Shu was gonna be there talking about indies. Like
they had brand, they had brand recognition to their names. And so it's like, oh, Sean's on the stage. Like, we're gonna get a PlayStation Studio AAA announcement. He's on the stage.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, Andrew House is here. He's gonna bring out Kojima or some other like random.
Or they're gonna put a chart on the screen. Like,
yeah. What else have you been playing and watching since we're already?
I mean, it was some of the NCAA tournament, men's and women's. It's so cool to see the women's tournament outdraw the men's tournament. I think that's fantastic. In terms of the Caitlin Clark, and I mean, I think even probably you're not a huge college basketball follower, but you knew like there was a big women's game going on. That South Carolina team, like back-to-back years undefeated, I think, or the whole year undefeated. That was really cool. UConn, I didn't. Like, they won every game by like double digits, and they're 12-0 in their last. They're on a 12-game win streak in the last two tournaments. So that's super interesting. Just I've been messing with the Destiny update, trying to get through some of that stuff and figure those things out. They added some older stuff that I really had a good time playing. I need to dig in. I'm getting a couple emails about there's some stuff on my Steam wish list that's on sale. I'm trying to just figure out like what I want to play or what I want to do. It seems like a very light drought time. I played softball on Saturday because the weather was above average. Getting ready to start playing some softball more regularly on like Monday nights and Friday nights, or Monday, Tuesday nights and Friday nights. So just
did you get an Eclipse stuff over in Michigan?
We did. We had the Eclipse. Like Owen and Angela, they called a half day of school. I was at work. People were coming in buying welding helmets for like $30 or $35 to look at the Eclipse for like
and then
30 seconds.
Right away?
No, not really. They didn't come back. My store has a lot of windows in the front, and so it was kind of cool to see it get dark and then light up back up. It was.
What was the totality over there? With Chicago, we had 94%.
Yeah, I think ours was really close. Yeah, a lot of people went down to Ohio because Ohio had the best, and there was terrible traffic coming back to Michigan. Kudos to Angela. She like a week ago got those polar glasses or the Eclipse glasses on Amazon. I swear we could have sold those things for like $50 a rip on Eclipse Day. But
man, I heard so many horror stories of people getting Amazon ones and finding out the hard way.
Like, I showed her that there's some story about them being recalled, and she's like, I didn't buy those ones. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I remember looking at the Eclipse as a kid, like through an index card with a hole in it. Like, so, I don't know. I guess I'll ask you this question. I kind of asked that to my wife. Like, am I the stick in the mud that I didn't really care that it happened?
No, like me and Sarah, we had the glasses. We we were working from home that day, so at 1 o'clock, we're like, all right, let's go look at the Eclipse, or 2 o'clock. It was cool. It was like definitely like like good 2 to 5 minutes of us being like, oh, this is kind of cool, and then it was like, all right, let's just go back to inside and go work. So yeah, I think it would be different if I was in like the totality stuff, because seeing like,
I guess that like in Cleveland it got
Eclipse,
dark.
It
got
like,
dark.
Street lights would turn on, sort of thing. Like, I think it would have been
a bigger
dark
experience here. It got dark here, almost like the way I would equate it to is like in the middle of the day, like if a tornado or a heavy storm came through, Like
Yeah,
that's the kind
Sarah
of
described
darkness.
it as if like a filter
Yeah.
was thrown on the sun or
I,
something.
Owen thought it was really cool, but his class has been hyping it up too. You know, like in
Mhm.
terms of like the science teachers or the like they're like that when you're surrounded by that constantly. I don't really watch the news, so
I don't either. So.
right. So it wasn't one of those things that was like I was like okay, like that's coming. I knew it was happening. It's not another one's not happening for like another 20 years.
Yeah,
Um,
2040
yeah, and it's
something.
gonna be in Montana. It's got my wife looking. She's like, in like 3 years or 4 years, I think it goes to. It's gonna be in Iceland, and she's like, we can go there. And I think she just wants to go to Iceland and using
Yeah.
that as the excuse. But it's cool. I mean, it was fun. I got some nice pictures of Owen doing it. It's a cool experience for him with the
Mhm.
holding the glasses on his face and looking up at it. He had a blast with it. So I guess
And being like, do not take these off.
living vicariously through my kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the memes about umpires and referees looking at the sun and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, for the most part, that's kind of been it with playing and watching. I've got a lot on my plate right now that I'm trying to just outside of gaming and I'm trying to do some stuff on the house and like just a lot of adulting, and still trying to have fun and trying to as the weather gets better, like trying to play as much softball as I can before I can't play anymore as we're getting near that time. So, and I'm hoping that like that saying I can't play anymore is like in 10 and 15 or 20 years down the road. so,
Yeah.
so that's it for me though.
For
I'm gonna
me,
grab a pillow because it sounds like you're gonna go
oh no,
ham for.
I'm not
No,
gonna.
I'm kidding.
I'm not gonna talk too much.
You
about
have the floor for
Uh,
wrestling.
yeah.
So
It was WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania is a 2-night thing this year again. I think it was 2 nights last year and the year before. It was back down to 1 night. Forget exactly. But yeah, it was 2 nights of 3 to 4 hours of wrestling a night. First night of WrestleMania was pretty solid. It was a decent show. There's only like 1 or 2 matches that were kind of boring. Night 2 might have been one of the most perfect WrestleManias I
it
can
made
think
it
of.
made
From
it
like
in our spoiler chat in Discord.
yeah, the fact that it from beginning to end, like no one match was bad, and it was for the first time in a long time that I can think of that like WWE actually gave fans a happy ending, or at least an ending that most people were satisfied with, regardless of who you wanted to win. And I think that was the one thing that it took a while to get used to, is the fact that WWE did right by a
Did-
storyline.
Did good to its
Because
fans. Yeah.
because we're so used to like the Vince McMahon way of doing things, of him at the last second being like, fuck the fans, they'll tune in tomorrow if we don't give them their way tonight.
So
Like they'll
Who's directing it now then?
Triple H.
The whole thing. Like he's doing what
Yeah.
Vince was doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's in charge of creative, and he's very
So he's like deciding the storylines and the
Mhm.
branches and everything. Okay.
hiring the wrestlers and doing all the storyline stuff. And he very much is old school, and also like give the people what they want at a certain point. Like he's not a full pushover, like we'll listen to the fans for everything, but he knows like the biggest event, you probably want to give your fans what they expect and what they want.
Because
You can screw
ultimately
them over
you
on
want them to buy the next event.
yeah. And the old way of thinking was never give them what they want, and they'll keep coming back hoping they'll get what they want. So it's been years of having the rug pulled from under the fans year after year. So this is the first year that they not only gave the fans what they wanted, but they actually were able to tell a really good story and do it in a really well thought out way. So super like happy with how WrestleMania went. It did lead to like come Monday, it was like, so now what?
Mhm.
Because we're so conditioned as wrestling fans to not getting the happy ending and having it always delayed. So actually achieving the happy ending Monday definitely felt like a reset, because it's just like, okay, so we got to literally start from scratch, like storyline wise, and build everything up, because everything went the way it should have the night before.
Mhm.
So super happy with WrestleMania. That's all I'll say right now. I could break down match by match, but no, it's fine. I'm feeling a little sick too, so it's fine. Playing though, not much. Still a random assortment of PS3 games. Dave, remember last year and people were like, "Oh, 2023 is like a bad year for gaming," and I think at the end of the year, me and you were like, "No, actually, this was a pretty decent year of gaming."
Yeah.
This year kind of sucks. I can't find anything that I want to play. Like Helldivers is the only thing I'm considering playing, but now I feel like it's way too late, which is something I've said a couple times already.
I'm surprised they haven't done some kind of double XP weekend or something like that to get people back
Yeah.
in. Yeah. No, but I mean,
like
at the same time, if their player count's not decreasing, like, why do they need to?
Yeah, I'm at the point where Suicide Squad was half off on Xbox, and I almost pulled the trigger. I was like, shit, I need something new to play. Like the only two things that I've really played that were new this year was like the Trace Memory remake, Recoded or whatever, and Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
But other than that, like Suicide Squad and Helldivers were the biggest releases. And we had a question a couple weeks ago of like, what are we looking forward to for the rest of 2024? And I still don't have an answer. And I don't know if that answer is going to be at E3 or Summer Game Fest.
Yeah. I agree.
I need something. I need a PlayStation game. I think that's ultimately what I need is like, I need a first party PlayStation game to be announced. Because that's usually the thing that like...
Yeah, but being announced means 24 months away.
But I'm at the point where I'm so starved from content that I just need an announcement. I need to know what to look forward to because I don't have anything video game wise.
Is Hellblade 2 going to do it for you at all?
Maybe.
Okay.
But if Hellblade 2 is like a 6 to 12 hour game, that's coming out in a month.
Yeah. We didn't talk about that either. The head of Ninja Theory is leaving.
Yeah, the head of Ninja Theory is leaving. But at least the game's coming out in a month, so it's like the finish line's been crossed. Yeah. And I never thought we'd get a Hellblade sequel to begin with, and I don't really expect the Hellblade 3. So it's like, okay, the job is done. Mm-hmm. They're moving on.
Maybe I'll play that one, the first one, but I don't know if I want to play that kind of game.
No, I don't think you'll be into it. To be fair.
No, I know that's the stuff I've seen of it. It's just not kind of it's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah. I'm just hoping something gets announced for this year, but I have a feeling
somebody needs to shock drop something, like
something
like a quick drop. Like somebody's got to do something.
Like I'm gonna end up playing a Star Wars game just to play something because that's the only thing that's coming out that looks mildly interesting. And I don't really care about Star Wars.
Still August.
Yeah,
it's April.
And I'm more like I need something announced already for the holiday.
Taxes haven't even been filed yet.
Dave, you have 5 days.
No, mine are done. I'm just saying, like, the majority of people's taxes aren't done. My daughters aren't done.
Yeah, I'm used to there being at least a summer game announced, and right now the only thing we have is
usually we know something we're playing in June.
And I don't care about Indiana Jones, so that's the other big game that's coming. And I'm sorry, I don't give a shit about Indiana Jones. Yeah. So I don't know. I need something. Oh, I also watched X-Men '97 last episode.
Oh,
depressing as fuck.
Okay.
It's a good show.
Have they said when there's more?
It's once a week. So.
No, you said you watched the previous episode, not the last episode of the season. Okay.
No. Okay. The latest episode I've seen.
Because it's only like 8 episodes, right?
I believe so, and that was episode 4, I think.
Okay.
So still 4 more weeks. The Fallout show did drop a day early today, and reviews for that have been pretty good, so I'm looking forward to that. And I believe all 8 episodes were dropped.
Yeah, I think you're right.
One time. Yeah. So
even my wife saw that on her timeline. I'm like, I don't know. I've never played Fallout games. We can watch it if you want to watch it. But
yeah, I mean, it's such a evergreen story concept that I think anyone can enjoy the concept, and it sounds like it's done well for the show. So I'll probably binge watch the hell out of that probably this week. But yeah, no, that's kind of it for me. I'm just looking for the next thing.
Yeah, same. All right, we're going to hit our questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. Stefan sent one in. He's like, well, anyone...
On Discord.
He put it in the Discord channel, the hashtag AskDigitalDays channel in our Discord server. Will anyone be getting the PS5 Pro? I have not heard good things about it so far, which is annoying as I loved the PS4 Pro. Go ahead, because I know you had already kind of hinted at you had some thoughts.
Yeah, so the PS5 Pro definitely does sound like the equivalent of the PS4 Pro in terms of like the PS4 Pro. If I remember, it added the potential for 60 frames for some games, and it added HDR, I think, pretty consistently. And that's pretty much it. The PS5 Pro sounds like it's going to be an improvement, but it sounds like we are still going to be in that same boat where it's like not every game is going to be able to hit 60. Games are still going to be hitting 30. Uh, so I don't really care for the PS5 Pro based off the specs that have leaked because it doesn't seem like a big leap, doesn't seem like that important. I do need a second PS5, so like I'm still holding out for a Pro because if I'm going to buy one, I might as well make it the Pro and get the little bit of boost. But I don't think the Pro is going to get anyone to jump into this generation that's still holding on to a PS4.
Not without a marquee AAA title like you talked about that's taking
And there
advantage
won't
of the
be
Pro.
because they're going to want
Yeah.
to support both. And
Right.
if you remember for the PS4 Pro, not a lot of games really supported that like to its fullest. Like games were like, hey, here's some improvements, but not a ton of games were like taking super advantage of the Pro. And especially now, like they still make PS4s, and for
They
a
still
while,
make games on PS4.
yeah,
Like I
but
saw
like
some graphic
they
of
don't
20.
make pros
Yeah.
anymore. Like you can't find a Pro.
Yeah.
You can find a basic PS4, but you can't find a Pro because they kind of really slowed down the production on those. And I just worry that we'll end up sitting in the same boat for PS5.
Yeah.
Go on for this before I jump into
The pitch around the PS4 Pro, if I recall right, was, hey, like we have games that are being held back by the hardware. And look at what we can do with a little bit of better hardware. I don't feel like we're at that point with PS5 or Xbox Series that where the hardware is holding them back. I think the games aren't taking advantage of the hardware to its fullest extent or are choosing not to because it's too hard to develop it that way or taking too long. So
and a lot of work was disrupted by COVID, and studios are still spread out. So
I don't think there's a necessary need for it, and somehow if they come out with, I guess I don't know what's next, like locked. Like I mean, I guess if you come out and say locked 60 frames per second on any game you put in here, but that's a lie because the developers can't make it run at 60 frames on anything. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I was a big supporter of the PS4 Pro because the PS4 was horribly showing its age.
yeah,
I don't get that feeling with the PS5 yet. And again, studios supported it to a point, but like they still would have developed for the lowest common denominator, which was the baseline PS4, so they couldn't go crazy with it. And you're going to end up in the same boat with the PS5 where it's like, hey, we still have to support baseline PS5. So PS4, PS5 Pro, we're only going to put so much effort into it. I think this is funny though. Microsoft, the reason they're talking about like their next console is because Microsoft already lost this generation's war and they're never going to gain it back. So they're looking at like, if we just jump the gun and do our next gen now, we can get a head start like we did in the 360 era. And we won't get a competitor from PlayStation or PS6 for several years if they're going down to Pro.
But it ain't gonna in this day and age, it ain't gonna mean a damn thing as there ain't no software for it.
No, I know, and again, it always comes down with Xbox. Is if they can ever get their first party software in order, then it will matter. But they haven't proven that they can do that. And PlayStation is at the point where it's just like, yeah, people are going to buy PS5 Pros. And as long as they're buying one or the other, we'll keep this generation going as long as we can. And Microsoft, for the second generation in a row, is like, God, I want this generation to be over. And we'll get them next time. And they've yet to do it. And PlayStation has been able to coast. But yeah, I'm not super excited for the prospect of a PS5 Pro, especially because PlayStation first party will support the hell out of it. And it's going to be a fantastic experience for those first party games. Everything else is going to be kind of this incremental improvements, if any.
Right.
And I'm not into that. And I also don't want to know how much of that's going to cost because
Yeah.
I feel like we would have gotten a price drop on consoles by now in previous generations. And the PlayStation 5 and Xbox prices have only gone up.
Right. Yeah, their slim models cost the same or more.
Yeah. So I don't even want to know what they would try and charge for a PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
At this point.
It's scary to think about. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is our show for the week. A little bit of a lighter show, but still around the same amount of time, it seems like. So you can follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at the First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Our Facebook group and our Discord server are linked in the show notes. Patreon is down there as well. PayPal also. So please, again, consider subscribing to YouTube's and Twitch's and hanging out in the live streams and leaving a review on the podcast and any of that stuff to help us like grow and let us know if it's something we need to do better, something you really like, something you want us to do more of, do less of. Feedback is always always welcome, and try to keep as much of an open mind as we can. Just be constructive and positive with your feedback if you're going to send it to us. But it's definitely welcome. So other than that, I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya. All right.
217, right?
Yep.
All right. Those of you hanging out on stream, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all later.